Vanilla Ice and DMX
Right.
and Drake, and it goes on and on and on the list. Kodak, of course.
Right.
And so I was very fortunate to have some really great clients.
He represents a lot of high-profile cases.
Because my reputation kind of was, okay, this guy tries cases and he wins cases. A lot of the record labels started noticing it, and then their artists would get in trouble. They'd hire me for them. Seeing their families and knowing them and knowing their backgrounds and seeing where they came from, it really leads itself to, you don't want to see them back in trouble.
All of a sudden, we're watching The Apprentice when Donald Trump had the show The Apprentice. It was a huge show. I look up and I see attorney Bradford Cohen is one of the guys.
I've had cases with him where he's calling me at 3 o'clock in the morning, and he wants to go over case details, and he's like, did I catch you sleeping? I'm like, absolutely not.
I have attorney Bradford Cohen. Bradford, welcome, first of all.
Thanks for having me.
Bradford owns the firm Cohen and McMullen.
Welcome to Two Taps and Friends. Grab your favorite drink, get comfy, and let's dive into another episode of Two Taps and Friends.
Welcome back to Two Taps and Friends. I'm Daniel Rosenberg. I'm host of the show. Today I have a special guest. I've been trying to get on here for a while. I finally wrestled him on here. I have attorney Bradford Cohen. Bradford, welcome, first of all.
Thanks for having me.
Bradford owns the firm Cohen and McMullen. Very successful firm. Bradford's a very successful lawyer, very known all over. You probably heard about him. He represents a lot of high-profile cases. Also, a good friend of mine, a guy I kind of keep in touch with all the time, kind of run things off of. One of the guys that I consider a mentor. There's certain lawyers that I go to for questions or any kind of situations, and I know Brad's one of these guys that's been in and out of every situation you could think of. But Brad,
pretty much.
Thank you for coming on the show, man.
Thanks for having me,
Welcome.
man.
So, listen. Give the viewers a little bit intro background, how you got into what you're doing, where you are now.
Sure.
Because you're an interesting fella.
Yeah, I'm going on. I'm almost going on. I think 29 years in practice. I've been doing it since '96. I started out in commercial litigation, trying cases for Bank of America, contract negotiation, contract formation, and then when I opened up my own firm, I had some really good criminal lawyer mentors. I had, Steve Hammer and Fred Haddad.
Oh, yeah.
These are names that you know.
Oh, yeah.
I don't know if everybody
I'm
knows
getting
them.
Freddie on here.
Right.
He's ready to come on here.
He's a good time.
Yeah, he is.
And so I had some really good mentors, and I just started to do more and more criminal work. And I just was very successful in the criminal field. I tried a lot of cases. I got lucky where, because my reputation kind of was, okay, this guy tries cases and he wins cases, a lot of the record labels started noticing it, and then their artists would get in trouble. They'd hire me for them, and it kind of snowballed from there. I had Vanilla Ice and DMX and Drake, and it goes on and on and on the list. Kodak, of course.
Right.
And so I was very fortunate to have some really great clients. I was really fortunate to have a really good career.
Right. So did you come out of were you a public defender or a state attorney?
No, I was a CLI,
Okay.
certified legal intern at
So
the
you
state
had
attorney's
some of it.
office. Yeah, so I was there for about a little over a year. I actually stayed after the class was over, and I continued to be a CLI. I got maybe 10 or 12 jury trials in during that period, and I was kind of known for I was looking for any kind of jury trial I could get because I wanted that experience. So I was trying anything I could get my hands on, DUIs, misdemeanor batteries, anything that I could get my hands on, I would. And then also during that time period, I was fortunate enough to watch a lot of really great trial attorneys.
Right.
And that's to me, the most important part was watching these really great trial attorneys, learning from them, learning their cross-examination style. And, Neil Dupree, who's another mentor of mine, and Rag Singhal, who's now a federal judge. Yeah. I got to watch them in trial, and they're some of the best trial attorneys in the country, bar none. Sure. It's just amazing, amazing work. So I benefited from that. Chuck Morton, who was a trial attorney for the state.
He's a legend.
A legend. So all these guys they're local legends, but I would put them on stage with any national attorney in the country.
Agreed. It's funny. When I ran into you, it's a similar thing because you always had this entrepreneurial mentality since I'd known you. And that's why I asked. I don't remember you as a prosecutor. Not my first experience with you. I was a public defender. I was there for the same reason. My goal, because I'd already had businesses before, so I knew I'm going to open my own firm. I need to get as many experience, as much as I can, try as many cases.
And that's the benefit. That's the benefit of working
I
there.
remember watching you in court pushing back on a judge so hard. I don't remember what it was. And I think you were friends with the judge, right? But you were giving it to the judge. And then I walked down the hallway and you were giving it to the prosecutor, right? And I was like, this dude's awesome, right? But you had that same mentality
Yeah.
I had. And I think, look at Spirals. I mean, you're all over the place. You know what I mean? So I'm glad that we have that friendship, and I try to follow that same kind of thing. Now, so you were doing all this, and at some point, all of a sudden, I remember I look up and I see you on. We're gonna get to The Apprentice.
Yeah,
Let's
sure.
talk about The Apprentice, because whether I don't know if you're tired of talking about
Nah,
it or not, it's a big part.
It
right?
is what it is. You
So
know what I'm
I
saying?
look up for the viewers. All of a sudden, we're watching The Apprentice. This is when Donald Trump had the show The Apprentice. It was a huge show. I think it was towards the beginning. You were one of the earlier seasons.
Yeah, earlier
right?
season. I think second season.
Right. I look up and I see attorney Bradford Cohen is one of the guys, and that's like a big deal. So tell me about how that worked. Tell me how you got to that, and tell me
Sure.
about your experience a little bit there.
So it's really funny too, because after The Apprentice, real briefly, after The Apprentice, then you're only known for The Apprentice, right? So anything, I was like, I had a triple hat trick award, which is, for the audience, it's 9 not guilties in a row.
Right.
So prior to being on The Apprentice, I'm like this criminal defense attorney that's winning all these cases, doing really great. And then after The Apprentice, it's like, if I won a case, it'd be like, apprentice wins second degree murder, failed apprentice, so it is kind of funny because they associate you with that all the time.
Right.
And it's like, takes a while kind of to break out of that. But I never shied away from it, because it was really interesting time. It was really a great experience. And what happened was, so that first Apprentice comes on, and that's like 2004, probably older than some of the people that are watching you right now.
Right.
And it comes on in 2004, 2005. And I watch it and I'm like, this is amazing.
Right.
And when I was in college, I actually applied to the Trump organization to work for Donald Trump while I was in college. And he wrote me this really nice letter that said, like, hey, get a little bit more experience, apply later.
Right.
And then obviously I went to law school. But long story short is, I watched that first one. I'm like, this is awesome. The show's awesome. And for the people that didn't know, they were getting 25 to 30 million viewers a show, which is unheard of. Now, a hit show is like 3 million viewers, 4 million viewers, because there's so many options, Netflix and things of that nature. So I watched it and I thought it was awesome. I wasn't sure if I wanted to be on the show, but I was in Las Vegas, and someone who's now a good friend of mine, and we became friends, Nick Warnock, who was on the first show. I see him in Las Vegas. And at that time, the Palms was like the joint, right? That was the place to stay. So
was it the Fertitta brothers at the time?
It was no. At the time, it was the Maloofs.
Okay. Oh, the Maloofs.
And I was friendly. I was friendly with the Maloofs. It was a great time. And so I'm at the casino. I'm having a great time, and I see him in like this steakhouse. And I'm like, oh shit, there's the guy from The Apprentice. Let me say hi. So I go up to him. I'm like, hey man, what's going on? And he was really rude. so like in my head, I'm like, this guy's, because he was with a bunch of people. He's like, yeah man, hey, how you doing? Blah blah blah. And I was like, you know what? I'm gonna go on The Apprentice, and I'm gonna make sure that I go further than you. And like, this is a joke. Like,
you say that to him?
Yeah.
Okay.
And like,
that's a Brad Cohen, just for the viewers.
Right.
That's a Brad Cohen.
So
moment.
it was like, I was just like, okay, you know what? You want to be obnoxious with me? Let's see how this goes.
Sure.
So that was my whole reason of applying, right?
Right.
So I apply, and we go down to Aventura, I think. We go for an interview. And before the interview, I made sure to know who I was being interviewed with. I did a whole background on everybody. I treated it like when you go into trial and you get the names of all the jurors, and you start immediately going on social media, you're looking up their names. I'm looking up, when they got the last traffic ticket. I have my office, making sure that I know who is on the jury panel. Same exact thing. I start like looking them up, and don't forget, back then it wasn't what it is today, the internet. We're talking 05.
Right.
So I'm trying to figure things out, but I go down there a day early, and I'm just hanging out because I'm listening to everyone that's in the room and everything like that. So then we go upstairs the next day. I go in for this interview, and the interviewer, who is now a friend of mine as well, his name's Rob, and he's like interviewing me, and he's not really getting it at first. He's like not kind of feeling it. And I'm like, oh shit, I'm kind of bombing this. And then I'm like, listen, I'm like, to me, my superpower is knowing people.
Right.
And now he doesn't know this, but I heard him the day before that he likes sushi and that he likes independent films. And he was talking about how his car broke down. He's got like a 69 GTO. So he goes, so I said, my superpower is kind of knowing people, reading the room. he might not even know this, that I heard him the day before saying all this
Right.
to this day. And so I go, like you, like, to me, you're like an independent film guy. He's
Right.
like, okay. I was like, sushi, probably salmon. He's like, oh, it's a pretty good guess. I'm like, you probably like old cars, but they're finicky, so your car probably breaks down all the time. He's like, holy shit, like, it's amazing. Like, I was like the
He's a
great
psychic.
Cognac. Yeah,
Right.
for the people that are watching, is, it's like, I'm reading into the future.
Right.
And he's like, this is amazing. He's like, you're definitely coming to California. So like, okay. So like the next week I go to California. Now I'm interviewing with Burnett and like these other producers that are all become friends of mine. But you walk in this room and there's a star chamber, right? There's like 8 of them. And they're like, why do you think you should be on The Apprentice? What makes you special? Why do you think you're special? Like, they're like kind of like, grilling you.
Wow.
And I was like, whatever, like, it is what it is. I went through my spiel, and in my mind, I was like, oh, I'm totally getting this. 48 hours was filming it. It was
Right.
like behind the scenes, which they never revealed. That
Wow.
would be kind of interesting to have that come out now.
Wait,
But
48 hours that they were filming the
the application
Oh,
process.
wow.
That's how big the show
and it
was.
never came out, that whole process? Okay.
Never came out.
That
So
should.
they're like, do you think you made it? I'm like, yeah, I totally made it. Like, these guys are losers. And to be honest with you, at that time, Bethany tried out.
I remember Bethany.
So Bethany was trying out for my season. She didn't get on my season. She
Okay.
actually got on a different season of Martha Stewart. And I don't know if she won or she came in second, but Bethany was there. We can't talk to anyone.
Okay.
So I see Bethany, and like we're like winking at each other. We're like, yeah, these people are crazy. Like, we're just chatting it up. Like in terms of not actually physically talking, but we're like,
Right,
this guy's weird.
Yeah.
And so we leave. And then I go for the second interview. So they eliminate some people. Now I'm on to the second interview. And I'm like, okay, I got this in the bag. I go to the second interview and I hammer the second interview with Burnett and stuff. And they're like, oh, we kind of get it, but I don't know if you're right for this season, maybe another season. And I was like, okay, whatever. And I go back to my room and they come in. And I totally thought this was a test because they're like, you didn't make it. I was like, really? I didn't make it? And they're like, no. And I'm like, okay. And I was thinking in my head, I'm like, okay, I'm just going to act cool because it's probably just a test to see how I react. I'm like, great. I'm like, I guess I'll see you guys next time. They're like, great. Here's a ticket. Get the hell out of here. Here's your ticket to on the plane. I'm like, holy shit, I really didn't make it. So like, I was kind of in shock. So then I went downstairs to the taxi. The taxi driver was like, okay, I got to take you right to the airport. I gave him $50 to take me to my friend's bar.
Okay.
And then I hung out for like a couple hours at my friend's bar. And then I flew back home and I was telling my mom, and at the time I had a kid working for me. His name's Jose Izquierdo, which Jose.
Oh, I know Jose.
And now he's a judge,
Yep.
by the way. And
Great judge.
and Donald Trump actually wrote him a letter saying what a great judge he would be
Right.
to the governor at the time.
Oh, really? Okay, so he was appointed. That's right.
He was appointed. So, and this all comes together, right?
Right,
It's
right,
all
right.
like everything has a step.
Sure.
So then I get back and they're like, hey, they call me like the day after and they're like, hey, listen, one of the other guys dropped out. You were an alternate. So you're in come Monday. This was on a
Nice.
Saturday. Come Monday, you're flying to New York. And then we flew to New York and, the rest is kind of history. I had a great time. And then I stayed in contact. My big thing is, and I always tell this to people, your net worth is your net work. You know what I'm saying?
100%, I
So like,
agree.
I always stay friends with everyone. I'm still very good friends with everyone at the Trump organization. I'm friendly with Eric and Don Jr. and the president. And over the time period, I started working with the Trumps and for the Trumps in different, transactional deals, or they'd call me about, there was a property in Florida that was going into foreclosure. They would call me and ask me questions about the properties. So I've always stayed in contact. And that's how,
Yeah, that's the secret sauce.
how it all came.
Well, that's
Yeah.
the secret sauce. First, you have to be likable. Second of all, you have to be honest. And third of all, you have to keep your connections.
It was great.
Honestly.
Yeah,
So,
it was a good time.
But on the show, you kind of made you became like this. What happened on the show? You remember? I mean, obviously, you remember on
Sure,
the show. I
sure.
watched it. I remember I was following you, right? And Brad's kicking ass on the show. Literally, you were kicking ass.
I was
on the
doing
show.
good.
And they had this rule. Do you mind if I tell? the
Yeah,
whole
yeah,
thing?
go ahead.
So they had this rule. The way Trump would do it is if like you were the team leader and your team won, right?
Yeah.
You were exempt from being fired that week,
Right.
right?
Yeah.
So then they would bring you in anyway, though. He'd bring you in, and Brad, being like the team leader that he was, dude, literally puts himself out there and he goes, you know what, Mr. Trump, I feel so confident in all this.
I did.
I'm willing to give my exemption up, right? And I'm like, oh shit, right? But I thought it was like the most noble thing. I saw Trump literally doesn't even blink. He goes, oh, okay, you're giving up your exemption. He goes, all right, you're fired.
And it's funny because after that, so this is a really good lesson for people,
Right,
right?
right, right.
It's like know who you're talking to, know your audience, know
Right.
their personality, and I always say that in business, right? In negotiations, in
Sure.
anything, it was a very valuable lesson, in
For
my opinion,
sure.
is
For
because
me
if
watching it.
right, if you don't know what the other side is going to think or how they're going to react, it's a mistake in any type of business, any type, even law, anything. And before I went on the show, I did read one of his books, but like I should have done more research on the reaction, because his reaction was like, "Hey, don't give up something for nothing.
Right.
Like if you're giving something up, there's got to be something on the other side.
Right.
To me, you're just giving this up and there's nothing on the other side." And I couldn't convince him. In my head, what I was doing was I was giving that up to show like the team that, hey, listen, I'm giving this up because I know that I held my own. I
Right.
pulled my own weight. You guys should understand that you should pull your own weight.
Right.
That's what I thought was needed at the moment. But looking back, you need to read the room. You
Right.
need to read the room better.
Right. And
That's all.
he made a point to say that, and I understood that too. But clearly he saw something in you, right?
Yeah, it was great.
He stayed in contact with you.
Yep.
You still have a good relationship with
Great
him, I'm
relationship.
sure. I mean, do you mind if we talk about him a little
No,
bit?
go ahead.
Trump, so in Trump, when he was running for office, I always watched him and all that,
Sure.
but I didn't know him. I mean, he was running for office. I didn't take it so seriously at the beginning. I didn't.
I
was
did.
like, I was like, okay, this is, I don't know where this is
We
gonna
talked
go.
about it.
Okay.
In 05,
Okay.
we talked about like him running for president.
Right.
And he was always like, "Oh, I don't know, maybe, yeah, one day, maybe." And there was another contestant on the third season that would talk about it all the time. You should be president. You're going to be the next president. And I think that over time, if you look at all of his tape when people are interviewing him, and these are people that liked him before he was president, but then
Right.
all of a sudden
Like
when he
Oprah, I
yeah,
saw
yeah, right.
one.
Oprah interviewed him, and I think Phil Donahue might have interviewed
Right.
him.
All the
and
big ones.
all the big ones
Right.
interviewed him.
Right.
And he has always been in line with what he's saying now, which if you look at a lot of politicians,
Right.
politicians flip-flop all the time,
Like
and they say,
crazy.
right, oh, I'm in favor of this, now I'm not in favor of this, I'm a Republican, now I'm a Democrat,
Right.
whatever it is. What was interesting about him was even back in the day, he was always adamant about, we can't send jobs overseas. We have to have jobs in America.
Right. Right.
We can't have an immigration policy that just lets everybody in. People have to follow the rules.
Sure.
Things of those, that base, that nature have never changed over the years. And I think that's one of the reasons why a lot of people wanted to vote for him, because of that consistency.
Right.
So,
I mean, he is. Listen, I have to say, like at first, I remember thinking like, "Oh, this is crazy" when he won. But then I remember like saying, "Let's see what this guy does." And I'd never seen a president do as much as the guy did.
he sleeps very little.
I still to this day say that I've never seen anything like
Yeah.
it. None of us have seen anything like it. The guy is consistent. The guy commands a room like I've
Oh, yeah,
never
yeah.
seen. I mean, this guy walks in with world leader. He's definitely the alpha in every room. I mean,
And I know people that worked for him that still called him Mr. Trump. Like,
Oh, yeah.
people that were even his age, they were still calling Mr. Trump. Michael Cohen, who, ended up,
right,
crazy stuff
Right,
and doing
right.
crazy things.
Right.
He would call him Mr. Trump.
right.
So it's like, all these people, he gave off that kind of aura of like, that's just the right thing to do, is to call him Mr. Trump. Like, I never thought of calling him any, I mean, now I call him DT and things
Right,
like
right,
that,
right.
or, Mr. President, but I've never thought of like calling him Donald. Like, that would never even come into my mind. And it takes a certain person to garner that kind of
Right.
respect and put that out there, that like that's the proper thing to do, is to call Mr. Trump. So like I know people that worked for him for years and years and years still call him Mr. Trump. So
Right.
it's really an interesting dynamic. I think that he sleeps, like I said, he sleeps very
Yeah, I
little.
was wondering. 'Cause
It's
you
like,
see him like he's
oh.
tweeting at like 1 a.m.
I've had cases with him where he's calling me at 3 o'clock in the morning,
Wow.
and he wants to go over case details, and he's like, "Did I catch you sleeping?" I'm like, "Absolutely not." Like like I always,
Absolutely not.
I would
Right.
always, no, I'm fine, I'm
Right,
wide
right,
awake.
Right.
And he's like, "Okay, good." And it's just funny because I just know like his personality in terms of what he wants done, how he wants it done. And he's just such an interesting individual when it comes to, and I had the benefit of watching him in negotiations, watching him at negotiation tables, listening to him like, this is how we're going to negotiate this. It's like a crash course in leverage, in negotiation, in knowing the other side. That's why I'm so adamant in business of knowing who you're dealing with,
Right.
because that's the only way that you can figure out how really to get a deal done. And that is what he's good at. He's good at knowing the other side, knowing what bothers them, knowing what doesn't bother them.
Right.
And he can transition from being, in your face to like, hey, you're a great guy.
Right.
Like, and people just, oh, okay, yeah, he's a great guy. So it's like can transition by, he'll make fun of how short you are, and then the next minute he's saying you're a great guy, and it transitions, and people don't mind it. Some people can pull that off. He's one of those guys that can pull that transition off, where what he says in 1 minute, and then he's your friend the next minute, you want him to be your friend.
Yeah.
So
you're following it, right?
It's super interesting to watch him, super interesting to transact with him. And like, even one time he called me at 3:00 in the morning on some case, and he's like, this is what I want you to say exactly. And he gives me the sentence. And I was like, okay, it's like 3:00 in the morning,
Right,
I'm on my cell phone.
Right.
My wife's like sleeping next to me. She's like, who's calling you at 3:00? She knew, like, she got used to those 3:00 in the morning calls. And he says, this is what I want you to say exactly. He gives kind of me the sentence of what to say. And I'm like, okay, I got it. And he's like, did you write it down? And I'm like, yeah, I wrote it down. He goes, good, read it back to me. I'm like, shit, and I'm like, he's like, I knew you didn't write it down. So he's like very, very, he's just a likable guy. And that's the thing, like, when you meet him one-on-one, any of these people that don't like him, that talk about him badly and things of that nature, when they meet him one-on-one, he's like an interesting guy. He just starts shooting the shit with you, and he starts talking. When he met Lil Wayne, Lil Wayne, me, and a couple other people, we had like this kind of like a summit for judicial reform, and we were talking about judicial reform, and then he just switches up to talking about football or MMA. And Wayne likes MMA, so they start talking about different MMA things, and we're talking about different people in MMA, and it's just like, when we left, even Wayne was like, he's just like a normal, like a regular guy that you would just you'd shoot the shit with. And that's why I think people like him, because he has that regular guy. Doesn't matter how much money he has, he's still, in his mind, I think he's still a kid from Queens.
Right.
So like, doesn't matter how much money he has. That's why he relates to janitors. He relates to doormen. He relates to, from here to here, janitors to kings. He can have a conversation with them, because I think he is relatable in that way. He's not, even no matter how much money he has, still a relatable guy. And you can't say that for a lot of guys that are billionaires.
Well, not at all. And the recurring theme I noticed with him, like, he seems to be, he is what you see on TV. Like, he is not performing. And that's when I really started to like appreciate what he is and what he does.
Sure.
I would listen to him. I would hear, because like, it must be hard for you being friends with him and knowing him now, to hear things that are said about him that are clearly untrue. Like the whole, like, both good people on both sides. When I listen, we go back, I listen to it. I'm like, what are they doing? Like, why are they doing this? And then you would see it over and over. The racist, he hates Mexican, whatever. It's all bullshit, right? It's all bullshit. And the guy never hides what he feels. No. It's not like he's mincing or he's playing. The guy says what he wants to say all the time. And just like you said, I've seen him, like they say with Netanyahu, I've seen him shit on Netanyahu. I've seen him talk, but you can tell they're friends. Correct. Right? But just like, you might get pissed at me and go off, but you'll say it. You know what I mean? So like, I thought that was
always the same thing.
Right.
So you saw like Marco Rubio is in his, in his administration. I mean, he was making fun of Marco Rubio like nobody's business. But guess what? Marco Rubio is doing a fantastic job. He's good for the country. He's doing a good job. Right. He's going down the line of taking care of different things, and he's getting it done. He's executing on it. The thing that people, I don't think, understand when it comes to Donald Trump is he just wants competence. That's what he
I
looks
get
for.
that.
He looks for competence and excellence. And if you're not competent,
Doesn't
you're
tolerate it.
not excellent. Doesn't matter who you are, what you are. You could be green, and he'll fire you. He
Right.
doesn't care.
Right.
Female, male. He was one of, and it's funny because it doesn't get a lot of play, but he's one of the only guys in construction in the 80s that was hiring females to run construction jobs, that was hiring females to be management positions. And the way he hires is really funny too, right? He gets a feeling for the individual, and he'll hire you off that feeling sometimes.
Wow.
Doesn't matter, like, obviously he wants to know where you went to school and things,
Sure.
and he likes that
Sure.
that pedigree. But I've seen him hire people on the spot that he's just like, this is a good person. And he feels like that person is a good person. The way he hired his first, well, not his first bodyguard, but one of his bodyguards, who's now a vice president at the Trump organization. His name's Matt Calamari. Great guy, super loyal, just a really, really handshake, decent guy. And how he hired him was he was actually Kornikova's bodyguard.
Okay.
And during like the US Open or one of the tennis matches, I think it was the US Open in New York, someone at the upper area of the stadium, every time she was about to serve, was like, F you, and like kept like yelling.
Right.
So, Matt, who is not a small guy, he's a big guy.
Sure.
He is like scouring. He sees who it is. And don't forget, it's on TV.
Right.
And he goes up to where the person is. He waits. The guy says, F you. And he tackles the guy, knocks him out, puts him on his shoulder, carries him out of the stadium. And the story is Trump is like, get me that guy for my
100%.
security.
Why not?
And he's been with him for,
That's amazing.
45
Yeah, he
years.
goes with his gut. That's
Yeah.
what I like.
Yeah,
And that's what's
literally.
missing. And like, he's literally solving shit. Like, I mean, not to get too much in politics, like the Abraham Accords, when that came out, listen, I've been following this shit all my life. And
Yeah.
that was unheard of. And the guy got no like credit for it. It went quiet.
Yeah.
Like people that knew. But he's solving problems that are almost unsolvable.
And the good
right?
stuff he does kind of goes unnoticed.
just
Like
gets
they don't want to
pushed.
report on it. It's very strange. And
It
we
is
live in
bizarre.
strange, we
It
live
must
in
be hard
strange
for
times.
you to see it knowing the guy,
Yeah,
right?
we live in strange times where, I understand there's always going to be a divide in politics.
I agree,
Always.
right.
But
That's old. That's not new.
it used to be, no one was scared to put their political views out
Sure.
there. And I think that has changed. I think that, because of the media and how they portray it and how they look at certain things and social media and all these other things, I think it has kind of gone away from that.
Right.
And I always keep an open mind. Like, I don't agree with every single thing one person says.
Sure.
And there's some things that I agree with that people that I don't like, but I might agree with what they're saying here or there.
Right.
I've always tried to keep an open mind about that. And I think if we start getting back to keeping an open mind about certain things, certain subjects where I think they're just right on the money,
Right.
I think that we would advance further in terms of like not having these conflicts all the time.
I
It's just
agree.
weird. Like, when you say someone, and here's the thing, everyone takes a certain stance on like immigration or something. If you just say, like, if you start off with, hey, if somebody's in the country illegally and they are committing crimes, violent crimes,
Right.
can we all agree that those people need to be deported?
Right.
Like, just start there. And like, but some people
They skip
don't
right
even want to
over.
agree to that.
Well, they skip
so
right over.
yeah.
They pivot to the next
Yeah.
leg
It's
of the
tough.
conversation.
It's
It is
a tough. And listen, I'm a criminal defense attorney.
Right.
I believe in due process. I believe in the Constitution. I believe in the right.
critical thinking.
Yeah, listen, I believe in the First Amendment very strongly.
I agree.
I'm a strict interpreter of the Constitution,
Agreed.
of laws, of statutes. And it's funny because sometimes you'll argue that strict interpretation in front of a judge, and that judge will want to sway a different way
Right.
to, kind of put it into a box where they're happy with it.
Right.
And I've seen that a lot of times in my practice, some in my favor and some not. But
Right.
like, even when it's in my favor, in my head, I'm like, the way they got there wasn't how I wanted to get there.
Right.
You take the win because it's a win, but you say like, hey, this is the way I wanted it to get to the point where it was.
Right. So recently, what your most recent like big artist that you were representing was Kodak, right?
Sure.
Well, I don't know.
Yeah,
You represent a lot of people.
I represent a lot
But
of
talk
people,
to me
but
about Kodak, because that was interesting. Because
yeah.
he ended up with a pardon, and he ended up.
So
tell me a little bit about that. First of all, he seems like the more I watch him through your eyes and
Yeah.
through your posts, and I love the guy. I'm
Yeah,
like, this dude's awesome, man. Right? Like,
he comes
I don't
over.
even know that I listen to his music
Yeah.
that much. Right?
No,
Like,
he'll come over for dinners. He comes over for birthday parties.
I mean, he's a good guy. He looks like a good guy.
He's really funny, and sometimes he's playing. He'll go live and not even tell anyone he's live on whatever,
That's
Instagram
awesome.
or Facebook, and I'm like shooting the shit with him, and he's live on the air, and then all of a sudden 30 kids show up at my door because they know where I live,
Right.
and they're like, hey, is Kodak here? Because we see him on live, and I'm like, oh yeah. So like,
goodness.
but he grew up with Lamar Jackson, so like Lamar is also another client of mine, and it's a good vibe. When they're around, it's like Lamar's throwing a football to my son. Like, how often does that happen?
Right.
And like Kodak is on live talking about something, and they're in the house, and we're having dinner.
That's cool.
Or whatever. And he's just every artist that I've ever worked with,
Sure.
and I think to be an artist, you need to be slightly off center somewhere, right? To be an artist, a true artist, there are gives and takes, and everybody has their own kind of like little thing. And you see that in comedy. I mean, some of the best comedy writers, the best comedy guys, all have issues with like depression or issues with, and that's what leads them to be great, right? Comedic geniuses.
Right.
So that's all part of it. So every artist I ever dealt with always has that other kind of thing going on. But to me, like Kodak is more than just a client, and a lot of my clients are more than clients.
Sure.
You find there was a movie, I can't remember the name of it. It was like a bounty hunter movie, and the guy's name was Papa, and it was played by Steve McQueen.
Okay.
Okay. And I'm pretty sure it was Steve McQueen. Anyways, so it was Steve McQueen, and he was a bounty hunter, but he became friends with like all the guys he would hunt. Right. And it's like, and they're like, hey, Papa, like, I'm going to go to, I'm going. And this is predating Dog the Bounty Hunter. And it was just that type of relationship that you have with, 80% of your clients.
Right.
It wears on you after time because you don't want to see them getting in trouble.
Right.
People are like, oh, attorneys just want to make money, but like when you start, like me, I start having relationships with all of my clients, and seeing their families and knowing them and knowing their backgrounds and seeing where they came from, it really leads itself to, you don't want to see them back in trouble. It doesn't matter how much you're going to make.
Right.
You don't want to see them back in trouble. So same thing with like Pooh Shiesty and Kodak, Drake, Lil Wayne. I love Wayne. I think he's an interesting guy. And like when you sit down with these guys one-on-one and you're just shooting the shit with them, they're completely different people than they are
when they're performers. They have to perform. And
and they're good dudes. And you see this, I mean, over and over, Justin Bieber, right? Like there is a time where I felt like so bad for Justin Bieber because I understand kind of the quandary that a lot of these people are in, entertainers, and people are like, oh, woe is me. The guy made $20, $30 million in 2 months, whatever it is. It's not the money, right? It's that it's lonely,
right?
And it's boring. Because it's, you're putting out a record or two a year, you're going on tour maybe once a year, but the rest of the year, what are you doing? What are you doing to fill your time? And it becomes very tedious and boring. And it's like, how many places can you go to dinner? And then would you really want to go to dinner, get your picture taken, and people are going to write about you. So it's almost like that's what really hurts about the fame. And so I understand when Bieber starts writing these things about like that he's lonely.
Yeah, the lonely song. It's
really crazy.
I represent. I have some high profile clients as well. I represented. And I had an occasion. I was on a team for Phil Collins for some other family thing, and I got to know Phil really well. And you talk about lonely, like, I mean, this is an old school British rocker, legend. He's the coolest of cool. Like you sit with Phil, you're like, this is awesome, right? The guy's so cool, but he wouldn't want to leave the house.
No.
And I remember one time I met him out. It was like his ex-wife's like fashion open. He had to go, right? He's like the figurehead. He's got to be there. He's sitting there with his guards, and he's miserable.
Right.
Miserable.
Right, it's
I
tough.
walk in, I come in, and he kind of lights up. He sees me because it's like a human that he can talk to.
Yeah.
I remember thinking it must be so hard for
It's a
these guys,
super
man.
difficult thing that people that don't relate to
Right.
because they think like, oh, you're making money. Like, okay, I mean, what's torturous? You got a Ferrari in the yard. You're living in a mansion. Blah blah blah. They don't realize that kind of that loneliness that comes with it.
Right.
And even like these Instagrammer guys that are like, these life coaches and all this bullshit. Even those guys, making content every day, it's not what it's cracked up to be.
No, not
but
at all.
people see this stuff on Instagram and they're like, oh, I'd like to have a Bugatti. I'd like to have a Ferrari.
No, and it's easy, right? It's real easy. Like these guys aren't kicking their asses, man.
Right.
Yeah, and I see you, and I see, but you do like, you're such a great lawyer with it too. I see you handling the media too. Like with Kodak, you were all in the media. You were doing like, and I always have this quandary. I talked to Eric Schwartzreich about it. He was here not long ago. We talked about how we handle media sometimes, because each case, he agreed, is a case by case basis.
Correct.
There's cases where I'm no commenting.
Right.
Everything.
Because you don't want any media.
I don't, because you can't win some of these things in the
Correct.
media, right?
Correct.
But you were out front with Kodak, and it worked. I mean, not worked. You were doing obviously a lot of brilliant legal stuff, but I mean, you did a good job with that with Kodak.
And the thing is, like with someone like Kodak or like someone that is in that same situation, the reason why that worked is because the narrative the media was putting out wasn't the real narrative.
Right.
The narrative the media was putting out is that, oh, he got in trouble again or whatever it is. They weren't putting out things about his charity work. He was donating, he donated like 200 ACs, air conditioners, to Golden Acres when all their air conditioners were broken. It was a heat wave. And Golden Acres writes a letter that says, don't come back. Like those type of things the media doesn't pick up on. And sometimes, a lot of famous guys don't even want that in the media in terms of the type of good that they do. I always feel like when the media is on one side of the fence and just talking about all the bad things you do, you have to put out the good things. And it's not that you're doing it to get the media, but if you do it, I have to put it out there because I can't just watch the media get things wrong with any of my clients. So like, and that's why a lot of people hire me, because I not only do I fight for them in the courtroom, I also fight in the media when it's appropriate.
Right.
Sometimes it's not.
Yeah.
Sometimes you just got to let it go.
Right. And it's a craft. It's an art. You learn through mistakes. Sometimes you learn. I told Schwarzenegger the story once. One of the NFL guys I was representing, and it was, I shouldn't have said, I always no comment, but I went a little bit like, I said something like, we're going to fight the charges, just the word fight. And he was accused of fighting and beating the shit out of somebody.
Right.
So that backfired.
You got to watch.
It's just every little word. I'm like, God damn it. I slipped
you got to
up for 1
watch.
second,
Yeah, you got to watch
it. Was nonsense. It didn't do anything, but still.
No, but you do want to watch what you say.
Right.
And I've seen some high profile cases where the lawyers are saying dumb shit.
That
And you're
drives me
like
crazy.
sitting there, you're like, God, this lawyer is just a dummy. Like this is the horrible thing to say. It's not going to help the client. It may hurt the client.
Right.
And then, you see a judge yelling at them afterwards that, you shouldn't be talking about this or that. So a lot of times it really is a craft outside of the law that you have to get used to. And some people that I represent, they don't want you to make a comment. So it doesn't matter what's said in the press.
Don't say a word.
Their management team will say like, hey, we'll let our PR people handle that.
Right.
But what's funny is a lot of times the PR people don't handle it the way that I would handle it.
Right.
And, that's why I try to work hand in hand with them to tell them kind of craft what the narrative is instead of the narrative that the mainstream media
I love
is
that. I've been
picking up.
watching it on your podcast too, because usually he has a podcast. But for all the viewers, we're going to tag it at the end. He has a podcast, The Dirty Gavel. It's amazing.
Yeah, it's fun.
And it's Brad doing, like, I'm thinking these things. We're watching these trials that happen on TV and these comments that are made by the lawyers. And I see Brad just like, what the hell is this guy doing?
Because some of them are so stupid.
And you take the glasses off and you're like, dude, like.
Some of them are horrible. Some of them are horrible.
Crazy.
And cross-examinations that, it's funny because it's like, after you're used to doing a good job for clients or watching really, really good attorneys, I had the benefit of working with F. Lee Bailey. Like I've worked with like some real legends that you get to watch in trial and learn from in trial. And then you see, like, some kid, like the Cardi B case drove me crazy. That was probably one of the worst cross examinations. And I don't even like talking shit about other lawyers. I'm just like, oh, it might have been a bad day.
Yeah,
Blah, blah.
right. Maybe
It was just horrible. It was like, felt unprepared. It was a bad case to go to trial on. It was a case that probably should have settled for nuisance value.
Right.
But this guy wanted $1 million, and that's a nuisance value case. And listen, we get these calls all the time, like people that say like, oh, I want $50,000, or I'm going to, go do this or that. And I always say to people, there's two routes to do this, right? It's the first route is the economic route. Just look at it as an economic deal. Don't take it personally. You have a $3 million contract you're about to sign. It's worth 50 grand just to make this go away because you don't want the press, and then you don't sign your $3 million contract.
Exactly.
There's that way to look at it. Then the other way to look at it is really, the president's way to look at it is just to beat the shit out of this guy so they understand,
close the floodgates.
Stop, right. Everybody else is not coming for me. I beat the shit out of this guy. That's the end of that. That's also the Jay-Z method, right? Jay-Z literally spent whatever it took, and I'm sure it was millions of dollars. He hired Quinn Emanuel, which is a gigantic firm. They probably charged $2,500, $3,000 an hour.
Right.
And he and he beat the shit out of Tony Busby to the point where, Busby was thrown out of the courts in New York and they were investigating him, and then they put a case on Busby.
Right.
I mean, you got to go to all out war or the other route. There is no in between. And I always say it's like Mr. Miyagi, right side safe, left side safe, in the middle, you get squashed like a grape, which is true. You got to either go to war or do an economic analysis and then settle.
Right. Well, the big boys, I think they don't really have much choices like that. Jay-Z, I mean, everybody come picking for him.
You'd be surprised. Some people settle out of court and settle quietly. Here's the thing, like with Sean Combs.
Yeah, that was we covered. Both of us have been covering that.
Yeah, and I know Sean Combs from back in the day.
Okay.
Just at the same events, charity events and things of that nature.
For the viewers, Sean Combs is P. Diddy.
Right.
Sorry, just in case.
Puffy P. Diddy.
In case you've been in a cave for 25, 30 years.
Yeah. So in the case of like Sean Combs, that first lawsuit by Cassie, even though I felt when I read it, I thought there was a lot in there that was untrue.
Right.
Just the mere allegations. And don't forget, you can say, and you know this, you can say whatever you want in a complaint, and the press is going to pick up on it.
100%.
You're not going to get sued for defamation if it's in a complaint.
Nope.
So when I read that, I was like, even though I read that and I was like, oh, okay, there's some things in here that I know are exaggerated or not true or whatever. That was a case where you're like, is it worth just settling this case, call it a day, and make it go away? And that was a critical call. And the critical call was like, now, if you choose the path of war, which is okay too, but then you got to go to war.
Right.
So like once it gets filed, you can't settle that the next day because that is the chink in the armor. That makes you look weak.
Right.
Now everyone's going to sue you. Right. So either you settle it very quietly over 6 months and you take depositions and you get crazy, or you go to war and say like, she's the one who did this, she's the one who did that. You don't settle the next day. That was kind of the bad call. It's either you settle it before they file or you settle it, down the line after you really dent their case up. But that's what led to the criminal charges, in my opinion, is that kind of, fantastic complaint where, and when I say fantastical, like all kinds of things in that complaint, that's what leads to the criminal charges, because now the Southern District of New York sees it, and the prosecutor Comey, who's no longer a prosecutor there, she reads this and she's like, oh, wait a minute, there's something here. This is kind of sexy in terms of like, these are the accusations. He's got tons of assets we can seize and all these different things. And that's really what happened in that case. I think that's what motivated the criminal case. And ultimately, to me, it was a weak criminal case.
So weak. We all did an analysis too. We thought it was terrible. And I think how long is he serving? 4 years?
50 months. He'll be out probably in 12. He did about 13 or 14 months to this point. He'll probably do another 12 or 13 months. He has an RDAP program, which is the residential drug program. That'll take 12 months off his sentence, 85% of that. And then because of President Trump, that was passed, the First Step Act and the Second Chance Act, he should get out in terms of house arrest or halfway house within like 13 months.
Right. Now back to Kodak and Kodak with the pardon. Do these pardons go across Trump's desk? Is he aware of these cases?
Yeah, I
obviously
mean,
he's got to sign off on them, and I know he's
sure.
got his hands on everything. But
Yeah, well, I mean, it goes to DOJ, right? So
Right.
you file an application, and how the process works is you file an application with DOJ.
right,
DOJ then gets it and reviews it and sees if there's any sticking points or what it is or how what this person is asking for, and then they make a recommendation. Then the White House counsel usually gets it. They'll make a recommendation, and then it lands on the president's desk. And sometimes, and as you've seen recently, like the president may have seen something on the news or may have felt something's unfair, and he may sua sponte, just on his own,
Sure.
think that someone deserves a pardon or a commutation because of what he's seen, or he'll ask DOJ, hey, look into this and tell me
what you
is,
find.
yeah,
There's something I'm
what's
missing here.
yeah, is there
Right.
something missing? I saw in the press that this person got convicted of XYZ. It seems unfair to me. Take a look at it and kind of brief me on it. And then he'll make a decision
In fact,
based on that.
Going from like poor Biden, that could, I don't know.
Oh,
but
geez.
Going from him to like
Yeah, that was a
to,
tough one.
to Donald,
Yeah, and
who doesn't sleep. I
and
just can't understand. The guy, how old's Donald?
he's about, I think he's
70?
80.
He's almost 80.
Yeah, I think he's 80,
The
81.
guy's trucking, man.
Trucking.
Trucking.
He,
God
he,
bless him.
he never stops.
It's
And playing
crazy.
golf every
And
other
He
weekend.
plays golf
Oh,
very
he
well.
crushes
too.
it.
Oh my God.
He crushes it. I've got thrown off a golf course with him once. Not with him. He's way better than I am. So I go to the 19th hole, which is the bar,
Yeah.
and I wait there. And I wait there. Yeah, he'll finish up. But yeah, he golfs with some of the best.
Yeah.
So and he holds his own
Yeah.
against some
His
of the best.
granddaughter's good too, guys.
Yeah, Kai. Yeah, she's very good.
Kai, she lives
That's
like,
Junior's daughter.
I
Yeah,
saw her
she's going to
hitting some
University of
balls.
Miami, I think,
Yeah.
or she's getting into university. I don't know if she's there now, but yeah, she's a great
I
golfer.
was watching her hit. I don't know how it came out, but I saw she was big golfing with him, and I saw.
She's a
her
great
hit a couple.
golfer.
That's
Great golfer. And Don Junior is a big outdoorsman and hunter.
I saw
and,
that. I saw that.
Yeah, they grew up. Going overseas to Europe and hunting with their grandfather, who was their mom's dad. So that's where they learned how to hunt. And Eric and Don Jr. both, they clay pigeon shoot and hunt. So we've been shooting a couple times. Yeah, they're good guys.
Cool.
Yeah, great guys.
Last couple, we don't have much time, much longer. I'm gonna keep it much longer, but like for the MMA fans, I wanted to go into Jorge Masvidal a little bit.
Oh, Jorge,
You
yeah.
Okay, talking about Jorge.
Yeah, I'll talk about any
I
case.
mean, that guy is also a character.
Great.
You gotta love Jorge.
right?
We all
Jorge
love Jorge.
Masvidal is one of my favorites.
If Jorge's listening, just not the person we love you. Just don't come after me. Nah.
He's no, you can't come after him. No.
I know.
He is a super great guy.
He seems like it.
I've represented him for a long time in different kind of things, different venues. Obviously, he got into that fight with
Colby. I want to talk about Colby because Colby puts up this image like he's this. I don't know if that's an image or what that he does. What do you know of him? What is Jorge? Because there's clearly a real beef there.
Yeah,
right?
there's a real beef,
right?
And there's a lot going on between the two of them,
right? I know some of their history, right?
And I think the Colby on Instagram isn't the Colby in real life. He's like, I think he kind of puts on the tougher image than he is,
right?
And that's not to say, he can't fight. I think he's a decent fighter.
For sure.
And I think Masvidal is a great fighter.
Clearly.
That not to say they aren't, Colby, but I think that night and the way that those things went down is real bitch move.
Yeah,
listen, you get into a fight, and then he was like claiming that his watch was broken and he had to get his watch fixed. It was going to cost $30,000. At the end of the day, and then he called his ring guy works for Miami Beach Police Department. So he called him first.
For the Boo Daddy?
Yeah, no. No. It was a cop.
Okay.
That is in his corner.
Okay.
I think he's like a sergeant or something. I forgot his last name. I don't know. Something Stein.
Right.
And he called him first. And then that guy called in like a level 5 or whatever it is.
Robbery or whatever?
Like armed robbery
to
and then 15 cars show up. There's a lot going on that case where, we were contemplating whether or not we were going to file complaints for the police misconduct.
Sure.
And Jorge was like, listen, I'm not filing against cops. Like
Jorge
likes cops. And he's like, I'm not filing against cops. Like, it is what it is.
He's a Miami guy.
He's a Miami guy. He's like, just fight the charges. He's like, I don't want to do that. But legitimately, we did have what I considered a really good complaint about how that went down and how it was reported and how things went down. But essentially, the facts were, nutty. And as I remember them, it was, Jorge, he says on a podcast that day, I think it was like with the Nelk boys, he says, if I ever see, Jorge Masvidal on the street,
site.
I'm going to kill him. I'll fucking kill him on sight, making all these threats and all these things. And then that night, I think Jorge was in the area and he was on the street.
Right.
And then it became like, run for your life.
Right.
And he pretty much ran for his life. And there was some witness I think there was a witness that said like he hid behind the hostess stand, Colby. And listen, I got nothing against the guy. It is what it is. And I got a lot of victims in cases or alleged victims in cases that I don't have beef with. I don't care, but don't come after one of my clients. And then, it was a bullshit case. So they filed it as a felony. It wasn't a felony. They were saying that there was permanent brain damage to Colby, and he might have permanent brain damage. It wasn't because of this, but they were like, oh, okay, it's permanent brain damage. And, I was like, okay, I'm going to set him down for an independent medical examination. I want an MRI on him. I want to see, I want a CAT scan. Right. I didn't give a shit. And I think after time, they realized, okay, like, even right before I was going to depose Covington, they were like, okay, you want to Mr. Me? Like, I think I could have kept pushing it between me and you. And I think they would have dropped it because I think Colby just didn't want to go anywhere or do anything after, 6 months. Right. And I think the prosecutor knew that too. And I could have called her bluff a million times. And there was one point where she was like, you know what? I'll just do XYZ. And I'm like, okay, then we'll go to trial. And I hang up on her. And then she's like, comes back, hey, I don't know. I said that. So I knew they had a weak case. Right. They knew they had a weak case. Right. It wasn't going anywhere. And he ended up taking like a withhold on a misdemeanor or like time served. I don't even remember what it was. He paid like $100. And Masvidal was like, listen, just take the deal. Cause I said we could push this. And Jorge was like, just take the deal. I'm not paying him shit for that watch that he says was broken and all this other stuff because he never hit the ground. Right. He never hit the fucking ground. So it's like, you see it on video. It wouldn't be my fault if he tripped on his way to run behind the hostess stand.
Right. That's still not my fault. Right.
So, it was what it was. But I love Masvidal. I talk to him all the time. I think he's super, super funny. He was going to train my son. And we're still kind of organizing that with America's top. Get that
organized. My kid
America's
jump in
top
on that.
Team.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
No, that's awesome. But yeah, man. I mean, he's just lucky he's got you. I remember I called you right after that. I'm like, great. Yeah, this looks like Brad nipped this in the butt pretty quickly.
Yeah, it was good. It was good.
But listen, tell the viewers about your podcast. Tell them what's going on. I mean, your Instagram handle. You got a lot of followers on Instagram. Sure. But talk about it a little bit.
I have an Instagram. It is it's Law Ronin. Is that my Instagram?
Law Ronin.
Law Ronin.
Right. I'm like correcting you.
Yeah, it's Law Ronin at Law Ronin on Instagram, and I post like little clips about different legal matters, different things that are going on. My position on things, things of that nature. In fact, I just made a new one, which, by the way, I got to tell you about this real quick. Is like I was in the Miami Design District. I see these kids with like these $30,000 jeans, like all this stuff, and I'm like, they don't realize how freeing it is to just go to Old Navy and get like a $6 T-shirt and throw it away. And that's the flex.
Right.
The flex is the $6 T-shirt. And I get a stain on it and I throw it away. That is the flex. Don't get $30,000 jeans. So we did like a little clip on that. But that's on Instagram. And then my YouTube channel is The Dirty Gavel. And we do longer clips. We talk about, different murder cases. I'm always on Court TV or with Jesse Weber on Law and Crime.
Right.
So we're always talking about different murder cases. The singer David, that alleged murder case that they're investigating now. So we talk about all those things. It's really interesting. It's a good time. I have some fun with it. We have some good guests on there. I answer some questions. It's fun.
That's awesome.
Yeah, it's a great time.
Well, we're going to tag everything at the bottom when we release it.
I had a great time with you.
I appreciate it.
It's always good to see you. I haven't seen this guy in forever.
I'm going to come Pearl Harbor you a little bit. Kind of sneak you over there.
Whatever you want. You can come down to my show.
I would love to. That beautiful set. I'll just come down and hang out, have coffee on the set.
We had a great time building that set. It was really, really cool. It's in one of my warehouses. And my team put this together in 2 weeks. And it was awesome.
Fantastic.
Yeah, it was really good.
Well, dude, thank you for coming on, man.
Thanks for having me, man.
And we'll have you again soon. Hopefully I get you over here soon.
Anytime.
All right. And thank you to all the viewers and listeners for listening to us. Please like and subscribe to the channel. I'm being told I have to say it every time. When you like, subscribe to the channel, it gives us outreach. Go check out Brad's podcast. Like and subscribe to his channel as well. You can find Two Tapping Friends everywhere on Spotify. We're on iHeartMusic. We're on Instagram, YouTube. We're everywhere. Like and subscribe. Thank you all for listening. We love you all. We'll see you next time. Goodbye. Cut. We're good. That was awesome.